Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
And there we go. Just like that, we're off. We're running another brand new live edition of Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond with you until 9 a.m. Safe travels into work, into school, wherever you may be headed. A little foggy in some places. So as you make your way into school to drop off the kids, make sure, pay attention to those school zones, and we get to where we got to go safely. Welcome into our Tuesday edition of the show, and the countdown continues towards the start of week 0 of the college football season. 18 days, 4 hours, 58 minutes, and 47 seconds away from the start of week 0 of the college football season. The Vanderbilt Commodores will play host to Hawaii on week 0. Later in the show, hopefully we'll hear from Clark Lee as his Commodores continue to get ready for that week 0 game. Yesterday, now coming up it was a week from yesterday, the first installment of the AP preseason college football poll the preseason AP college football poll will be released. It was a week from yesterday. So yesterday we get the USA Today Coaches Poll, the preseason poll. Two-time defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs, no surprise here. They get 61 of the 66 first-place votes. They are your preseason number 1 in the USA Today Coaches Poll. That would be followed by Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State, and LSU. They round out the top 5. Alabama and Ohio State, the only other 2 teams in the preseason coaches poll to receive first-place votes. Alabama notched 4 first-place votes. Ohio State gets 1 first-place vote. USC comes in at number 6, Penn State 7, Florida State 8, Clemson 9, and Tennessee, the Vols, fresh off that double-digit win season a year ago, now have Joe Milton as starting quarterback. They come in at number 10 in the USA Today preseason poll, followed by Washington, Texas, Notre Dame, Utah, Oregon, TCU, Kansas State, Oregon State, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Wisconsin. Ole Miss checks in at number 22. Tulane, Texas Tech, and Texas A&M come in at number 25. So those are that is your USA Today Coaches Poll, the preseason poll. As is the AP poll, you always sit there and look at it and say, oh, well, this team is overrated to start the preseason. This team is underrated. This team won't finish inside the top 25. Last year it was Texas A&M. Remember, everybody had Texas A&M inside the top 10 in the preseason AP poll. And Texas A&M, I believe, and yes, they did. They finished outside the AP poll.
They did not have a winning record. They sucked. They almost finished below Vandy. Thank you.
So you got to look at the USA poll and say, well, this team is underrated, overrated. Kind of hard to do that right now because you don't know a lot about a lot of the teams.
That's why they shouldn't have rankings until the first month.
Agreed.
What conference is Oregon State in?
Today? Don't know. But we're going to get to that in a little bit. We're going to get to all of that. We got a lot to get to. Yesterday, the Auburn coordinators, Philip Montgomery, the offensive coordinator, Ron Roberts, the defensive coordinator, had their media day. And they sat down with reporters and they answered some questions. Auburn has a lot of questions as well as the quarterback spot goes. There's a quarterback battle down on the plains. Philip Montgomery, the offensive coordinator for Auburn, helping us out.
Coach, you're probably going to hear a lot about this, but the quarterback competition, I guess it's been a few days of practice now. What are your initial thoughts, especially now that you have Peyton on the field?
Yeah, I've been pleased with their progression and what they're doing. I think they're understanding what we're trying to do offensively a little bit more, especially the little unique parts of it. We still got a long way to go before we figure out who's going to be our starting quarterback. But I think all of them have shown flashes. We got to be a little bit more consistent. I think we're doing a better job of making sure that our eyes are getting in the right spot, and getting our reads from that standpoint. Been pleased on the last couple of days, especially in our RPO games, how they're taking advantage of some opportunities when those present themselves. But, there's so many factors that go into being a quarterback, and it's not just about the way you're throwing it or hitting the deep ball or working through your progression. There's the leadership side of it, and you got to control all of those factors. So we're still a long ways to go before we figure out who that's going to be, but I've liked the progression that we're making and the progress that we're making, and
That's Philip Montgomery, Auburn offensive coordinator. Auburn will scrimmage for the first time on Saturday. Peyton Thorne now in camp, was not there during the spring. A little bit of a quarterback battle down on the Plains.
Yeah, a little bit. We all knew that, but it won't really be a battle. It'll end up being Peyton Thorne, and they'll use, Robbie Ashford, in my opinion, because they have to be able to throw the football consistently and down the field. And I think that's the one area where Robbie Ashford, has to develop more. He is an outstanding athlete and a good runner. I think he rushed for over 700 yards for Auburn last year, but one of the reasons their offense wasn't extremely effective is they weren't able to throw the ball down the field, and I think Peyton Thorne gives them that ability. He certainly threw for over 6,000 yards at Michigan State and was a very productive starter for those guys. And so I think in the end they're going to use Robbie Ashford. I think he's a weapon, but I expect Peyton Thorne to take the first snap in that ball game in their opener come September.
One of the things Auburn will use is tempo. Philip Montgomery talking about getting used to the tempo, and a lot of the players on this Auburn team have not used the tempo that they are trying to use.
Well, we do. I mean, obviously we've got to make sure it's matching up with our personnel and what we're going to be as this football team, offensively, defensively, and special teams, but we like to play with pace. I think our guys getting used to that, that's a totally different way of playing offense than a lot of them are used to. And so I think we're doing some good things. We got to get set faster. We got to get our eyes back on the sideline quicker. And then we've got to really mentally rep that play in our head in a manner that when we're set, we understand what's fixing to happen, what's fixing to go on, and how to react to what we're getting defensively. And so that comes with progress. That comes with reps. I think our guys are doing a better job of it. But, yes, we would like to play that way.
There you go. Philip Montgomery, Auburn offensive coordinator, talking about the tempo and the pace that Auburn wants to play, and it takes a little bit. That's why you use these scrimmages, these camps, these practices.
They've been through it, man. Look, they didn't do it for 2 years, but they did it for years under Gus Malzahn. I know half the roster's new with transfers, but this is not reinventing the wheel. Hugh Freeze is not doing anything he didn't do at Ole Miss. It's the same stuff. I mean, they have film of it. I mean, tempo is nothing now. Tempo, everybody does it in some form or fashion. Alabama's done it. Everybody uses tempo. Everybody goes fast. We heard that from Kevin Steele on Sunday. I mean, it's not an excuse anymore. As far as you can't be of not being prepared for it, not being able to substitute, and blah blah blah. It's been there, done that.
Right,
and
right.
You got to have the Jimmies and the Joes. It ain't the X's and the O's. Because if you don't have the Jimmies and the Joes, you're going to get your ass whipped. And I mean, that's just what happens.
Jeff from the Borough with us this morning. Good morning, Jeff.
How's it going, guys?
Good, Jeff.
I know y'all are bashing me again. There's preseason polls in every sport because it's called Talkin season. Everybody wants to talk about who's good and who ain't. That's why I'll be glad we actually play some games on high school at every level. I'm tired of the talking. The only sport that talks so much is football. The other ones don't. But we don't even hear nothing about who's going to be good at the other sports. Don't even hear about it. But football, you do. From about probably April to March to now, or April, maybe whatever it is. So I mean, it's out there. It's going to be there. We're not going to wait a month. If you want to do that, let's wait till about October to do game day on ESPN. just like basketball does. Wait till about February to do it. Let's wait till about October 1. We don't need no game day the first week. You don't need to go nowhere.
Why?
Y'all don't want a preseason poll, so let's don't have game day. We don't need no game day stuff. We don't need no Corso wearing his helmet gear. And we don't need that. He's about 95 years old. Anyway. He needs to retire anyway. He's about 95. They got rid of Pollock, so I guess they got rid of a good guy. I don't know. We'll see what they do this fall. I mean, I don't watch it that much anyway, to be honest, but I watch a little bit of it, not a whole lot. But, I watch basketball more. They have that on about 2 episodes and the tournament comes on. And also, I did want to tell y'all yesterday, this is what I predict is going to happen with all this alignment. I know fans love this. They just can't get enough of 35-team conferences. So what's going to happen is, and I guess this is the end-all, be-all of it, the big schools want to swallow up the small one. It's like catfish with minnows and guppies. They want to swallow them up. And what's going to happen, I read yesterday, they want to get rid of the NCAA tournament. They're going to get rid of it. And what you're going to have, you're going to have one division that the big schools are going to play and the small schools are going to play to be like football. They don't care nothing about no other sport but football. You guys know it and I know it. These administrators, they're not worried about what basketball does or these other sports. You think Greg Byrne cares about basketball? No. Mitch Barnhart should care about it, and I'm going to call him out. He's the greatest state he's ever had, but I'm calling him out on this one. Because I'm sure he voted to put Texas and Oklahoma, and he voted to put what's the other ones, Missouri and Texas, and all them other ones in. So if you want these rivalries to stay, then stop expanding. If you don't want them to play, stop expanding. So y'all have a good one. See y'all.
All right. Jeff was hangry today.
Who?
I mean, okay, look. I disagree with him on the college game day thing. Disagree with him on the conference expansion.
You can still have game day without. You know what a dang good matchup is without a ranking. You can have college game day all you want. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, ESPN's had to make a lot of cuts to their because of their wokeness and because they screwed around and they've overextended themselves and they made a lot of stupid ass decisions 2 and 3 years ago that are still reverberating now. And that's why they've had to cut people, because you have to cut people when people aren't watching. If people are watching and business is booming, you don't cut people. You cut people when you make idiotic decisions. And some of the people that they cut, were really good and had been long-time forces in their, for their company. And some they cut stunk. Some they cut, like a guy that was previously mentioned, is a narcissistic prick who would sell his autograph on eBay. Wasn't that good anyway? Yep.
Now Gene Wojciechowski on the opposite
Gene was
end.
Great.
That was
great writer.
Yes.
Good job. Does a good job telling stories on television. I mean, that was one that I think he'd been close to a 30-year guy. Susie Kolber on the NFL side, she did a really good job. But again, I always thought Pollock was overrated anyway. I mean, what did he bring to the table?
Sharply dressed.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I thought he brought to the table. I mean, basically Pat McAfee's replacing him. Let's just be honest. They brought in McAfee and they cut Pollock.
As far as preseason polls go, they mean absolutely nothing. A lot of coaches, a lot of people within the college football ranks, even the basketball ranks, feel like you should wait a little bit before the polls come out.
Well, especially now, man, because like a team like Auburn,
right?
You don't know even what they're going to look like yet because they've got 40 new guys. And over half their starters on both sides of the ball are going to be new, man. They could end up being a really good football team that's a top 20 team in the country, or they could be 7-5 or 6-6, depending on how people mesh and if you stay healthy and things of that nature and how the ball bounces. But they could have a really good football team. You just don't know yet.
Well, you look at the preseason poll. Now, not picking on Tulane, but Tulane comes in ranked number 23 in the USA Coaches preseason poll. A lot of that is because they beat USC in the bowl game last year.
And they
no
went
offense
to the Cotton
against
Bowl.
Tulane, but
they had a good enough regular season to go to the Cotton Bowl. So that's why they're getting a lot of publicity.
Yes.
I mean, but again, it is what it is. But I think that's they've got a sneaky game in week 2 against Ole Miss that'll be really interesting. I mean, we'll see how much better Lane's team is, and we're going to talk to a first-time guest, Jared Redding of Rebels 247 in the second hour, and we'll get his thoughts on training camp and how it's going so far for the Rebels. I mean, they certainly have Quinshawn Judkins. We didn't get a chance to speak to Quinshawn in Nashville. We spoke to Cedric Johnson, their outstanding defensive end, who's been a multi-year starter, and I believe it's his second straight year representing his football team. He was in Atlanta 2 years ago as well. But, Quinshawn might be the best player in the league. So we'll see. But Ole Miss is polarizing because just like every year under Lane since he got there in 20, they've got a lot of new guys, a lot of portal additions, and they
defense
totally
is always the question mark.
Now
him.
they may very well be sticking with the status quo at the quarterback position with Jackson Dart, but they've also brought in a couple of additions. And so we'll see, and we'll ask Jared about that. His colleague David Johnson told us in the spring that there was no quarterback competition. With Spencer Sanders coming in from Oklahoma State, he felt like it was still Jackson Dart, and we'll see if that's the case.
All right, let's get our first break in. When we come back, we will go back to the phone lines, 256-576-4977. Plus, delve into some more college football expansion talks. If you're not sick of it already, we'll talk some more about it.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
It sounds like they're trying to get a wrecker into the vehicle that was involved in that car-train collision on Cedar Lake in Decatur. Hopefully we'll get that crossing back open soon. Got a wreck in Lawrence County, 24 in County 327 that may be working a few more minutes. And Governors in Gallatin reported as an injury type, but it ended up being a no-in. Challenge yourself and push your goals with the Soggy Seals Triathlon. September 9th at the Southeast Family Y. This is great for families and to teams new to the sport. YMCAHuntsville.org. Captain Nick in the North Parkway Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
This is Wes Neighbors sitting here with Philip Love of not only Eagle Installation, now he represents Eagle Companies. Eagle through the years have added several companies to help individuals or builders through their construction renovation process. Eagle is known to represent quality, efficiency, and professionalism. Philip, I know you do insulation, but do you do masonry?
We do.
Do you do grading, erosion control, and dirt hauled off?
We do.
Do you do afterpaint, which includes shower doors, mirrors, shelving blinds, and bath hardware?
Yes, we do, Wes.
Do you do landscaping and irrigation?
Yes, we do.
So basically, Eagle can help you all along your process of building your house or doing renovations. So do you do plumbing?
We do not, Wes, but we can find somebody to do it.
Just give them time. They'll be there. Anyway, call Eagle Insulation at
256-755-1556.
Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money. Call Eagle today.
Thanks, Wes.
Thomas from Talent Heating and Air back in studio with us. And Thomas, those temperatures in the summertime starting to rise once again. You want to make sure you're not left out in the heat. You want some cold AC, give Talent Heating and Air a call.
That's right. If you give us a call, we can generally get out there the same day. So we pride ourselves on the same-day service.
And what's that number?
256-503-4490.
And if those AC units are giving you the blues and you've already called someone else, never fear, give Talent Heating and Air a call because you guys can still come out.
That's right. We do free second opinions on major repairs and quotes. A lot of times we save our customers thousands of dollars and additionally get their units repaired before the other guy could even get started.
And that number for Talent Heating and Air is?
256-503-4490.
And if you can't give Talent Heating and Air a call, you can find them online at
talenthvac.com.
Schedule all your appointment service calls there. Talent Heating and Air. Give them a call or find them online today.
Tom Luganbill here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
Great food and the best live entertainment is what it's all about at the Furniture Factory Bar and Grill. Head to downtown Huntsville every Tuesday for karaoke on the only outdoor karaoke stage in North Alabama. Thursday night is the Valley's longest running and biggest bike night. Food and drink specials, giveaways, and live music on the patio. And the Furniture Factory menu is fully loaded with options, from steaks to salads, plus a whole lot more. Featuring a weekday happy hour that starts at 3. 619 Meridian Street, downtown Huntsville, and online at FurnitureFactoryBarGrill.com.
Have a chance. Welcome back, Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond with you. Make sure you stay with us throughout the show. We will talk some college football realignment. It's not dead, or maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. We'll also touch on some Clark Lee, some Lane Kiffin. Got a lot of other good stuff to get through throughout the morning. 256-576-4977. That's how you can be a part of the program. Brandon with us this morning. Good morning, Brandon.
Morning.
Morning.
So y'all survived the lightning storm yesterday?
Yeah, we had a close call there, Brandon, but we had a nice electrical storm blow through.
Tell you what, I was like in the gym, and like it was driving home. It felt like it was a movie.
Well, I was in Kroger where I discovered they changed the label to Blue Plate mayonnaise, which caused all-out hell for me.
Oh boy!
I'm
Let me guess, it offended somebody.
I don't know. They put New Orleans on the front of it, the Steamboat, which is a big downgrade because people from Atlanta and people from New Orleans we're not friends. So, but they changed that, and my wife come in with some Miracle Whip, and I was like, no, they got Blue Plate. So I go back to the store in the middle of that storm, and I asked the lady, I was like, where's Blue Plate at? And we both stood there and looked for several minutes, and she says, I don't know. And the manager says they changed the label, and I said, dude, what? And we got to looking, and sure enough, they changed it to a clear. I tweeted at him and asked him, I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, you don't mess with perfection.
What was the previous label? What did it look like?
It was blue, white, and yellow, and it said Blue Plate, and now it's clear with a little bit of writing, and it's got a picture of a Steamboat. I tweeted a picture of it. It's massively different. I mean, you could have been Stevie Wonder and found Blue Plate before, but now you're gonna have to do a double take on it.
Interesting.
See, I'm a Dukes guy. I like Dukes.
Oh, I do not like mayo, period, so it doesn't matter to me. That would be disgusting.
So, I mean, people are just very partial to mayonnaise. They're very divided like their football team.
No, they are.
I've come to realize.
I mean, I can have Chipotle mayo with a little spice in it, but plain mayo, no, I'm sorry. I could do without. People drinking mayo at Duke's Mayo, I mean, give me a break. It's like, what's the matter with you? Did you vote for Joe?
I have a friend that's terrified of mayonnaise, and every time the Duke's Mayo Bowl on and he comes over, I'll turn it on, and he will get up and go outside. He will freak out watching people eat mayonnaise. It's one of my favorite things I do every year, and he falls for it every year.
I put a little bit of it on a sandwich. I put a little bit. I don't just sit there and eat mayonnaise, though. I mean, it's an accessory.
Well, I was listening, catching up a little bit, just killing time, not listening to people's kids screaming Kroger. I was listening to Josh Pate, and he was talking about the Eric Wolford hire.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the right side of the offensive line and what's coming going forward. And he says that Eric Wolford was a sneaky good hire that was an upgrade from what we had with the last two guys. He said, and it's going to bear fruit. And hearing him talk about that and put that much stock in it, I mean, I've got a pretty good bit of confidence in Wolford. But he really seemed to be high on his ability. And he's talking about the right side of the offensive line is going to be, I guess, probably what it was back when 2 or 3 years ago when we had Cornbread on the left side of the line. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that. And I'm wondering, from what you guys have seen and what you guys have heard, the development on the offensive line from last year to this year, are you hearing better things about it? Do you feel like it's a unit that's working together better? What are your expectations for what do you think out of year two of Eric Wolford as far as O-line development. And who do you think is going to start? You think Latham is going to start, or you think we're going to have somebody else at left tackle?
No,
Brandon,
Latham's not going to be left tackle.
He's
Latham's going to be the right tackle. He has not moved at all since camp started. It's a two-way fight at left tackle. It's Elijah Pritchett, redshirt freshman from Columbus, Georgia, and then true freshman Caden Proctor from Scott's neck of the woods in the state of Iowa. Those are the two guys fighting it out at left tackle. And then it's become a two-way dance at left guard. It's T.J. Ferguson, redshirt sophomore from the state of Georgia, and then the graduate student, the senior Darian Dalcourt from Baltimore, Maryland. Those are the two guys fighting it out at left guard. So those are the four competing for those two spots right now. I thought Proctor might get a look at left guard, but Pritchett got hurt in the practice the other day. Proctor got a ton of reps, and again, they don't have a lot of depth at tackle. That's kind of where they're short because a lot of them transferred out, like Damian George. He transferred to Florida. He's competing for a starting job on their offensive line. And, he made some headlines by saying he thought the talent level of Alabama and Florida was just the same as he's gotten used to practicing against the Gators. But, I mean, that's neither here nor there. But he transferred. They had several that hit the portal, and then ended up going other places. So, again, they just don't have a lot of and that's that they kind of ran into that. They got a preview of it in the Sugar Bowl because so many of those guys left before the Sugar Bowl and had decided to go other places. Amari Kite, he went to play for Gus at UCF. That's another tackle prospect. So a lot of the depth is gone, and so they haven't been able to move guys around to different positions as far as the tackle spots. And I wouldn't either. I would probably just roll with who I had. A lot of their tackles now are young as far as backups go. Wilkin Formby, Miles McVay, guys like that are young. Ola Salinan's even seen some time, I think, at right tackle as a backup. They're cross-training some dudes because I don't think Alabama has as many offensive linemen on scholarship as they're used to having, probably 3 or 4 short. That's why they need to sign another 4 to 5 O-linemen in this coming class. And they have 3 committed. Most of those guys are all interior guys. So we will see, Joseph Ionata, Casey Poe, and the kid from Brookwood up the road too. So Alabama they're just trying to develop depth right now, but they're young and really they probably needed a couple more tackles in this coming class. They've got some guys, Favor Edwin from Eagles Landing in Georgia, who is going to decide in August. He's a 6'8", 290-pound kid who's from Nigeria, hasn't ever even played football before. But he's going to play this year as a senior. He came to Alabama's camp. He earned an offer. He's a developmental type guy that they may end up very well taking. And then they're in the mix for Jordan Seaton at IMG Academy, who is a guy that's one of the top probably 2 or 3 tackles in the class that they need. They just like last year they lost Caden Proctor to Iowa early.
Right.
But they kept recruiting him and flipped him because they realized that they needed more talent at the tackle position, and that's what they need right now due to the transfer portal and guys moving on that wanted to play. Most of these guys, I mean, they just wanted to play. They were backups, and I'll be honest, I think the guys like Caden Proctor are already better than them, but they're moving on for other opportunities, and you can't blame them.
The transfer portal will giveth and taketh, but I think along the offensive line and defensive lines, when you lose multiple guys, that's the position I think that it hurts the most is the offensive and the defensive line. I know it's a bad commercial.
Well, I mean, hey, it's just like Barnes' cousin,
Well,
he nipped it in the bud there.
Yes, but the offensive line and defensive lines are the positions where when you lose guys to the transfer portal, that's where your depth hurts the most because you can fill the secondary. You can get some running backs. You can get some
have
wide
a knucklehead like
receivers.
Jamil Burroughs who gets booted for incidents in the dorm when it's not smart in some ways to pull water guns on cops.
Never a good thing.
No.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's all I got to say about that.
That's all you need to say. All right, let's get a break in. When we come back, conference realignment talk again.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Temperatures only drop into the upper 60s and lower 70s as we head into the overnight, early into your Wednesday morning. A mostly cloudy sky Wednesday afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the mid and upper 80s. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. Some of those thunderstorms could be on the stronger end of the spectrum. We drop into the lower 70s through the overnight, early Thursday morning. Probably going to be dry for the Thursday morning commute. A partly sunny sky Thursday afternoon. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. Temperatures climbing a little bit. Highs into the upper 80s and lower 90s. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
And a wreck at Governor's in Gallatin that reported as an injury type ended up being a no injury. They should be about ready to clear that wreck in Lawrence County, 24 in County 327. And no word on Cedar Lake in Decatur. Had a car-train collision earlier, and they've got the railroad crossing on Cedar Lake closed right now. You could lose up to 4 sizes in 4 weeks with the 2030 Fast Track Weight Loss Program. Find out more at 2030huntsville.com. Captain Nick in the 72 and Jeff Popeye's Skywatch Traffic Center.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Our motto at Fleming Roofing is we show up. Our goal at Fleming Roofing is to provide the reliable customer service that you deserve, and we have the resources to meet all of your roofing needs: residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. We are manufacturer certified for roof coatings, single-ply membranes, and asphalt shingles. Whenever you need a roofing professional you can count on, call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We are committed to finding the solution that meets your needs. We don't have quotas or heavy-handed sales tactics. Fleming Roofing, we have expert experience. We show up. Free estimates, residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. Check us out at FlemingHSV.com. FlemingHSV.com. When you need a quick response, it's Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
What if I told you that Bigfoot is real and that he's making the best donuts you've ever had? Come see for yourself at Bigfoot's Little Donuts. Come in and order from over 50 flavors, all made hot and delicious. Ranked in the top 100 donut shops in the nation by Yelp. Bigfoot Little Donuts. Order in store or online at bigfootslittledonuts.com for pickup or delivery from Grub South or DoorDash. South Parkway, Huntsville, and County Line Road, Madison. Bigfoot's Little Donuts.
Do you want your next party to be something you'll remember? Then head on down to Flow Supremaire to book your next big bash. Birthday? Corporate meeting? Maybe just a family reunion so you can get your cousin Kyle back into the basketball court so you can beat him at basketball. I don't have no idea. Flow is fun for all ages looking for high-flying excitement, arcade fun, and tasty snacks to satisfy your hunger. Whether you have 10 friends or 25, Flow is jam-packed with something fun for everyone. Get jumping with Flow off South Parkway and Drake or head over to flowhuntsville.com to book your next party now.
When I chose a garage door company, I did my homework. I needed Precision Overhead Garage Door Service. They have a 5-star Google rating. I checked their reviews and liked what their customers had to say. Precision Overhead Garage Door has lifetime warranty packages. Same-day service if I call before 2 p.m. If they can't make it the same day, my service call fee the next day is waived. They did a 25-point safety inspection on the door and operator. Now that's peace of mind. Residential, commercial, and gate services. Precision Overhead Garage Door Service. Call 256-400-4500.
The best place to get 50s diner-style homemade delectables is Bubby's Diner. Located at 8412 Whitesburg Drive Southeast, try their all-new expanded breakfast menu with homemade waffles, omelets, and shrimp and grits. With 3 generations of experience, Chris Bubby Belcher has the best burgers in town. Don't forget to leave without a homemade pie or a hand-spun milkshake. Give Bubby's a call today at 256-513-8080. Bubby's Diner, home of the donut burger.
The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. Listen weekday afternoons starting at 5 on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
It's perfect!
All right, so I was thinking, if we're going to talk college football expansion, because it's apparently not dead, what's the best thing that we could come up with to do it? This is the only thing that I could come up with to introduce this.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
Here's the only problem. That's canceled too.
I know it's done, but
yeah.
But I'm just like, what do you come up? I mean, I was like, as the world turns, days of our lives. I don't know. But anyway, the ACC, they're having early discussions about adding Cal and Stanford. The Athletic reporting this yesterday.
Well, they already had discussions. They wanted to add about 5 of them, but as usual, they were slow reacting, and the Big 12 had already took 3.
Yeah.
So now they're talking about adding the Final 4, which is the Pac-4, or, at least Cal and Stanford, which I've been saying I thought they could end up in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And I got people texting me saying it doesn't make any geographical sense to add them to the ACC. And I'm like, did you see who's gone to the Big Ten in the last 12 months? Does it make sense to have UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington in the Big Ten? Okay?
No,
it's
no.
not about geography anymore, man. It's about eyes on televisions and football. Like Jeff from the Marlboro said.
That's all it is.
And by the way, that's another Druinary. We're now going to call him Jeff from the Marlboro because he's probably smoked 1,000 of them. I'm not in the mood today for Jeff and his idiocy. Saying Greg Byrne doesn't know anything about basketball. Greg Byrne's more of a basketball guy as an AD. He was at Arizona when they were basketball and a baseball
He doesn't care about
school.
basketball.
Yeah, Nate Oates only makes $5 million. Okay, he only makes $5 million, and they're only going to build a new basketball arena, Jeff. Okay,
Well, Jeff's just angry that basketball doesn't get.
He's angry because Alabama beat Kentucky by 44 points last year. Now, this year, it's going to be a different deal. Kentucky should have a very good basketball team. If not, then Calipari probably should retire. But they're not going to need that.
Well,
They're
they
going
lost
to be
to
just
the
fine.
they lost to the Bahamian. I believe it's the Bahamian national team yesterday. They're on they're on the Bahamas tour. Or
Wait a
something
minute.
like that.
They've already been on a Canadian tour. How can you go on 2 tours?
They are on. Let me
Because
see
they
here.
went to Canada and they beat everybody. Played well. I mean, they beat everybody bad. And some of those teams were pretty dang good. And so I think Kentucky, especially after, the late roster additions, that they've made in the transfer portal and then overseas, I think you could say they might be the favorite in the SEC. I mean, again, preseason rankings are meaningless, but I'm just saying they've put together a hell of a roster. And, and I'm just, I think he's done a heck of a job, and and they're going to be very, very good, even without Shebue, even without, of course, and Wheeler and some of the other pieces that have left via the transfer portal and the NBA, Livingston and those guys. I still think they're going to be really good, no question. But that Canadian tour, I mean, they played some teams that. We're pretty stout, and they handled them.
No, I got them confused. I think it's Kansas.
Yeah, because you can only go on one tour, and then really you can't do them back-to-back years.
Yeah, it was Kansas. They lost 87-81 to the Bahamian national team. I just glanced at it real fast.
Well, and they don't have all their guys either. They got a guy coming over from Australia who's who looks like going to be a heck of an addition.
So,
a very athletic swingman that's a Caucasian that I think is going to excite the fan base.
So when we're talking about this college expansion, and here's something to keep in mind, okay? If you're tired of it, okay, I get it, but you're going to get one more big dose of it because August 15th, a week from today.
Right.
That is the deadline for Florida State, Clemson, or any other school to notify the ACC that they are leaving the conference for the 2024 season. August 15th is the deadline.
Well,
now we're going to find out then if it's Florida State just posturing or trying to get more money from the ACC, if it's just jockeying, if they're really serious with their threats about leaving. August 15th is the deadline.
Well,
just that is the last dose I think we'll get of it for the year. After that, then Florida State, all the talk, whatever it is, it won't matter.
I would say Brandon is correct. He sent us blue plate mayonnaise.
Yes.
That is the difference in the canisters. So that is a slight difference.
There's a little difference.
Even though it does say blue plate clearly on both of them, there's a steamboat on one of them.
A little bit of a difference.
I don't know. I can't really tell what this other logo is. It's just a patch. So I don't know. Oh well.
So let me ask you this. If you're Greg Sankey and you're sitting in your office right now, it's 7:40, you have a cup of coffee, you have a Danish, you're sitting there all alone, do you entertain the thought of getting Florida State, or do you put your feet up, say, I'm happy with the 16 we have no need to expand, no reason to expand, the conference is fine the way it is,
you just sit back
you leave Florida State out to dry?
You just sit back and wait, and if the ACC starts falling apart, to me, you call North Carolina and Duke, and you dominate college basketball, and you make Jeff hemorrhage because Kentucky might not be the biggest blue blood in the league anymore. They'd be right up there. They'd be an equal, but you can't say they'd be the far and away just the clear winner anymore with Carolina and Duke in town.
So you would pass on Florida State?
Absolutely. So, because the SEC, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the Big Ten does. They're not going to be the biggest dog in football because they're still going to have to play on the field and get their ass beat. Okay? It doesn't matter. The SEC is still going to be king. The SEC is going to be king in baseball. SEC is going to be king in softball. SEC is going to be king in basketball. SEC is going to be king in football. It doesn't matter what you do. Tell me, I think Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South tweeted this out, in the Big Four since 2000. I think it's 31-2 with the Little 10 in their championships. Two. And one of them was won by Ohio State because Willis McGahee got hurt, and Mutt and Jeff was in the end zone and decided to throw a flag on the interference in the back of the end zone so the Suckeyes could win a championship for Jim Tattoo. And then, and then the other championship they won is by a guy I respect, and that's, of course, Tom Izzo and the Flintstones and Mateen Cleaves. They won it in 2000. Really 1999, but I guess they're counting it 2000. But still, that's the last time they won.
In basketball, yeah.
Yeah, and in those. And then in baseball, of course not. They made the finals in 2019 with Michigan, but then their coach said, we're not staying here. It's 30 degrees. I'm going to Clemson. Eric Bakich, he left. And then in softball, Michigan's really been the only Big Ten school to threaten and get to Oklahoma City, but they don't do anything. Now, UCLA might, enhance the softball because they're going out there in Oregon because they can get to the World Series. But, again, they don't win championships. They're gonna be coast to coast and everything with all these televisions. And you understand that the TV dollar, just drives it. But the SEC is going to beat their ass on the field. People are already trying to crown Michigan like they're going to be the national champs. I've seen that. I guess
Colin Cowherd has picked.
Well, then they're doomed. Doomed! It is over. It is over. Colin Cowherd couldn't name half their starters. Hell, I can't either. I'm not going to sit here and BS, but he will. He didn't know Joe Burrow played at Ohio State. I'll say that one more time. He had Urban Meyer in his studio sitting in front of him, and that moron did not know that Joe Burrow had played at Ohio State. They should have fired his butt right then and there when he didn't know. How can you not do research and know that Joe Burrow played at Ohio State? We cover the SEC here. We don't cover the Big Ten.
Same guy that also thought you
How do you not know?
Same guy that also thought you'd get draft picks in Major League Baseball, too. So.
He also said Gus Malzahn was the boogeyman and would be the end of Nick Saban, basically. And now Gus is in Disney World. And Coach Saban's going to break the all-time wins record. I said it right here. He's not going to retire till he breaks the all-time wins record. So deal with it, America, and probably win 2 more national championships. He's the GOAT.
Well, you're fired up today.
I'm tired of stupidity, man.
Oh, let's get a break in, shall we? Let's wrap up hour 1.
I mean, I wanted to talk about mayonnaise rather than mayo, rather than the damn realignment, because I'm already tired of it. It's stupid and doesn't make any sense. I wish it had stayed put, but it didn't. But then trying to say, the Big Ten, blah, blah, blah. I mean, who cares? They're not going to win anything anyway.
It's definitely a conversation point. And like I said, if you're tired of it, you're going to have to deal with it for another week, because August 15th is the deadline. We're going to find out whether or not Florida State got any bark to their bite. What's going to happen? So let's get that break in. Wrap up hour 1 coming up next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
We're seeing slow traffic on the causeway headed southbound toward the Hudson Memorial Bridge. That's headed into Decatur. I can't see any problem there. Traffic seems to be moving, but it's just moving very slow. Still working on a wreck at Governors and Gallatin. That one reported with an injury, but they canceled Hemsey. And it sounds like Cedar Lake may be reopened now, where we had that car-train collision earlier. Officers, construction workers, and first responders put their lives on the line every time they step on the roadway. Why not make it safer for them? Slow down or move over. It's the law. Captain Nick in the 72 and Jeff Popeye Skywatch Traffic Center.
Specializing in simple and affordable rentals, McCurry Van and Car Rental can make sure you have just the right vehicle for your next family vacation, weekend getaway, or if you just need transportation while your vehicle is being repaired. McCurry carries Ford Transit vans and Mercedes Sprinter vans, trucks and work vans, and more. And they offer discounted rental rates for long-term rentals. Now with 4 locations: Athens, Muscle Shoals, Coleman, and Huntsville. Log on McCurryRentals.com to make your reservation now. That's McCurryRentals.com.
Not looking or feeling your best? No energy for the things you like to do? Ready to look and feel younger? Make your appointment at Advanced Life Clinic, one of the region's foremost destinations for patients interested in looking and feeling their best. Specializing in advanced laser treatments and weight loss, male and female rejuvenation to offset the effects of aging, and more. See how Advanced Life Clinic can help you enjoy your life again. Call 256-882-6555 or log on advancedlifeclinic.com.
Next time you're online looking for landscaping inspiration, open Instagram and check out Southern Gent Landscaping. They can help make your yard your dream outdoor oasis. Southern Gent Landscaping can handle it all, from landscape maintenance and installation to irrigation and hardscapes, even AstroTurf. Turn your yard into a landscape you'll be proud to show off. Call Southern Gent Landscaping at 256-509-6088. 509-6088. Southern Gent Landscaping. Professional landscaping performed with satisfaction guaranteed. Ann Adams with Berkshire Hathaway Rise Real Estate is the one name to know if you're buying or selling real estate. With years of local experience, Ann Adams offers buyers in-depth knowledge of the local housing market and will narrow available properties down to those you'll be interested in so you can save time when shopping for your new home. If you're ready to sell, Ann offers a seamless process using accurate pricing and expert negotiation skills to make sure you get a fair price for your home. Call Ann Adams today at 256-337-2625 or log on bhhsriserealestate.com.
Tom Abraham here from my friend Brian Hamaker and his team at North Alabama Mortgage. Look, buying a home is the biggest purchase you will make in your life, and it can be a bit intimidating, so you want people that can help walk you through the mortgage process and get you the best deal possible. That's what North Alabama Mortgage does, and they do it in Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida, from first-time purchases to refis, conventional, VA, FHA, and USDA loans. They have the solution at North Alabama Mortgage. Visit NorthAlabamaMortgage.com to learn more. That's NorthAlabamaMortgage.com.
And now, a man who knows what you ate for breakfast.
Time now for the biggest thinker of them all.
He knows it all. He is Drew DeArmond. Listen to Drew and Scott Theisen weekday mornings. It's Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Hi, welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. Lane Kiffin yesterday meeting the media, talking about a lot of things Ole Miss. Clark Lee breaking down his scrimmage. By the way, don't forget, the Vanderbilt Commodores will kick off the season in 18 days, 4 hours, 9 minutes, and 47 seconds as they are playing in Week 0 against Hawaii. Whether or not Vanderbilt Commodore Stadium will be ready to go,
won't. They're going to be working around construction all year.
Yeah.
When you wait for 30 years and it's been like 1982 since you did anything besides bring in temporary bleachers, that's what happens.
So Jay Billis was on the Rich Eisen show, and Lane Kiffin had some pointed comments about the conference realignment. We heard from Eli Drinkwitz yesterday. Nick Saban has weighed in on it. Every college coach is getting asked about it now, and they all have different opinions on it, but most of them are similar to each other. Jay Billis, who has been on this show several times, always finds a poignant point. And here is some Jay Billis.
Right now, the administrators and coaches are complaining about two things. They're complaining about NIL because they don't know what the market is. And they don't know what they can and cannot do. And the truth is they can do just about whatever they want to do, which I think is the way it should be. I think it should be deregulated. And then they're worried about retention, the transfer portal. So they want players to have to declare where they're going and be locked in because it helps their roster. They like to use the red herring of what happened to commitment and loyalty and all that stuff when, hey, man, the transfer portal for schools is wide open. Schools they're transferring left and right to whatever conference they want, but then they want to turn around out of the other side of their mouths and say the players shouldn't have to be allowed movement. But here's the easy fix to all this. The NCAA needs to stop with this amateurism nonsense. That's dead anyway. They moved the goalposts, to use a sports metaphor. They moved the goalposts to employment. Now they can't be employees. Drop all that nonsense and just let the schools sign players to contracts. And that way you can sign a player to a 3-year deal. If you want to have a buyout if the player leaves or whatever, goes pro, you can do that. You can have contract conditions. Everybody knows what the market is, and they know how they're competing. It's incredible how contracts work for literally everyone else in America except college athletes.
You agree with Jay on all that?
I mean, in many ways, yes. I mean, the colleges are moving around and hop, skipping, and jumping right now. And what Elijah Drinkwitz said yesterday makes a lot of sense. And I've said it for baseball and softball and some of these non-revenue sports. And what I mean by that is because we know in just about all these athletic departments that, men's basketball and, of course, football drives the bus and pays for everything else. When you're having to travel coast to coast, it's tough. I mean, how do you pay for it, especially when you're having to fly commercial in some cases in some universities because you don't have a private plane? I had a lunch with Pastor John Dees yesterday. It was outstanding. I always enjoy his conversations because he's a former college athlete, played football at Auburn, and he was telling stories about how back in the 70s and things of that nature, 60s and 70s, Alabama had a team plane, had a university plane, but a lot of colleges did not. And Coach Bryant would send Alabama's plane to pick up other teams at times and coaches when they were trying to travel because they didn't have the budgets to do so.
Right.
So
that'd be unheard of in today's world.
Oh, I know. And so that's what I'm saying. And then Jay's talking about how these coaches they want to have the coaches want to be able to take other jobs, and these colleges are jumping around from conference to conference, but they don't want the players to have
freedom to move. And
I think they should be able to move once. I don't think you should be able to have free agency where you move 4 times in 5 years because it's stupid. because you can't build any kind of chemistry. How are you doing academically? How does everything transfer anyway when you're going from one school to the other?
Well,
I think
about
you should be able to transfer once in the 4 years, and then if you graduate, you can transfer again. So that's 2 transfers.
Yeah.
And to me, 2 transfers should be plenty. The only way you should be able to do it more than twice is if you move down. And what I mean by move down is if you go to a JUCO. Say you're a baseball player or a football player or a basketball player, and you go from a 4-year school to a JUCO to another 4-year, then that's another situation. But still, if you're talking about just going from 4-year school to 4-year school as far as D1 to D1, I think it should just be once and until you graduate, transfer again.
Think about how hard it is to do all that transferring. When we were at that basketball showcase, just on the junior college level, we found out academically what roadblocks are there for you when you want to transfer when going from Division I to JUCO back to Division I. It's not as simple as just saying, hey, I'm going to keep transferring. There's academic progress that has to be made. You have to fit certain criteria in order to transfer. You can't just transfer on a whim, because there is a lot of roadblocks.
A lot of times you can't transfer even from a 4-year to a JUCO, because if you can't turn it around and graduate in a year, they can't take you. There's all kind of things that that come into account academically, and then even in high school it's trickling down, because you got kids that have practiced with their team all spring, all summer, and then right before school starts, they put up a post on Instagram and say, "I'd like to thank all my teammates at said high school, and I'm moving from Oxford to Gulf Shores."
I saw that in state.
Yeah.
When did it become a thing for high school kids to put on Instagram that you are transferring from a high school to a high school?
I mean, it's just, and a lot of high school coaches are complaining about it because of the recruiting that's going on through third parties, and the kids are transferring to different high schools.
Let's not beat around the bush. As much tampering is going on in college football, there's just as much tampering going on the high school level here, especially in this state.
Yeah. I mean,
in this area, there's high school tampering going on, and there's a lot of coaches that are tired of it, even on the high school level, especially in our listening area.
Yeah, and you say it just really goes to show you that you've got to have a strong culture. And I'll say this, the biggest key in coaching today to me, and being around great coaches, and I've been blessed to be around some, is you've got to be able to have open lines of communication with your players and the parents, and have everybody on the same page where you have people that'll stay. Otherwise, if it's chaotic, if you don't have the pulse of your team, that's what happens, man, because people are pouncing, and you got people transferring all over the city, transferring all over the state. It's just one of those things. It's just another issue to have to keep up with.
All right, we're just about done with hour number 1. Can't we just go back to the days where we just played college football and gave people money under the table?
Some people are asking about that.
Let's just go back to the days where we cheated and no one pretended to know about it.
Everybody's talking about happy and blue chips, man. Happy and blue chips.
Let's just go back to those days. Yeah. Let's just go back to giving $100,000 in a duffel bag.
Or when Eric Dickerson gets a gold Trans Am from Texas A&M and doesn't play it down for him.
Don't know how he got it.
Yeah.
Oh, let's get that break in. And I mean, it's going to be a short break.
And you're talking about Ricky Rowe and his $30,000 and a tractor.
And a tractor?
Yeah, that's what you're talking about.
Mom needs a job and a new house.
Right.
Let's make it happen.
This is Brent Musburger's VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Check out VSiN's catalog of original podcasts, daily and weekly programming to keep you in the know when you're on the go. Only at VSIN.com. Now, here are the latest lines from my guys in the desert.
Angels two-way star Shohei Ohtani is still the favorite to win the American League MVP at minus 10,000. Ohtani leads the majors with 40 home runs this season. On the mound, he's third in American League strikeouts with 160. The National League favorite, Atlanta's Ronald Acuna Jr., minus 1,000. He's got the second best batting average in the National League and the third most hits. NFL preseason this Thursday. New England, a 1.5 underdog at home against Houston. Seattle by 4.5 at home against the Vikings. The USA Today College Football preseason coaches poll is out. Georgia leads the way. They're at plus 230 to win the national championship.
WCZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
Welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. Hanging out. Hour number 2 of Talking Ball. We're on the clock for 60 more minutes. And we've been talking Auburn. We talked some Alabama because they are all in the midst of fall camp, as is Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. Graham Mertz. What kind of quarterback can Graham Mertz be for the Florida Gators this coming season? Can he be better than the guy we saw at Wisconsin? That's probably the biggest question surrounding, I think, Graham Mertz.
Well, it is, and then defensively they've got to improve, but their recruiting is really going well, and I've said that ad nauseum. Billy Napier understands how to build a program. He's going into year 2. I think that patience isn't a great virtue this day and time, but if they will be patient, I definitely think it's on the track you want to turn this program around and have it competing at the highest level under Billy Napier. And we're going to talk some Gators fall camp with our next guest. I connected with him several years ago in his previous stint with covering Gator basketball. He did a stint in the Big Ten with Indiana and Purdue. Now he's back covering the Gators. Saw him in Nashville. It was great to connect. He's now covering Florida for the Gainesville Sun and the Gannett, Florida Network, and it's Kevin Brockway, and he's going to join us now on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Kevin, good morning. You're with Drew and Scott. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We are good. Your impression so far, I mean, Scott was talking about Graham Mertz. That's been the talking point all offseason, is that they want to get better at the quarterback spot. They had to attack the transfer portal. It was a little bit iffy in the 23 recruiting class, but Mertz has a lot of experience. I know he hasn't officially named a starter, but from Billy speaking to the media, it sounds like that's going to happen soon.
Yeah, and, based on what we saw in an open practice on Saturday, I mean, Mertz looks to be the clear leader just in terms of his ability, his accuracy, and a lot of players have talked about, some of his leadership intangibles. He's kind of a first guy in the building, last guy out of the building kind of guy, very cerebral. As far as the throws are concerned, he is accurate. I mean, I just think my big questions will be the deep ball. Can he, stretch the field? But he does hit receivers in stride, and he does, I think he's got the capability of moving the chains. It's kind of like a diametric opposite of Anthony Richardson, who could, make the big play downfield but couldn't, move the ball consistently. I think this is kind of the reverse of that, if you will, in Graham Mertz. But I think Billy Napier's very comfortable with his football IQ and his work ethic and his leadership intangibles. And I think, they're probably going to name a starter by the end of the week, and I think he's probably going to be the guy.
Yeah, what would be the ceiling then for Graham Mertz? I mean, is this a case where, Florida has done very well in the recruiting cycles, trying to find quarterbacks for the future. What's the expectations? What's the ceiling for Graham Mertz?
I mean, I think the ceiling is a guy that can just lead you to win games, and I think you've got to cross your fingers that the defense is going to improve. You look back on Anthony Richardson last year. I mean, he had some big games, and I mean, he had 2 400-yard games against Tennessee, against Vanderbilt. I mean, he was just outscored basically, and for whatever reason, the defense never came together. So I think, and certainly Anthony had his struggles too, particularly early in the season. I thought he kind of got better as the season went along, enough to be, drafted number 4 overall by the Colts. But I think with Graham, I guess the cliche is game manager, but somebody that can, lead your team, not make mistakes. You're counting on the experience of 32 starts in the Big Ten. He did throw some interceptions. He did get sacked a lot. So I think that, making quick decisions with the ball is going to be important for him. Florida, built a very good offensive line last year for Richardson. They're trying to do the same this year, and if they can do that, they can hope that they can have an offense that can kind of sustain drives and play complementary football.
No question, and really another area to watch is the development of the offensive line. With Osiris Torrance coming in last year with him from Louisiana, he became an NFL player. I thought the Gators' offensive line was actually pretty good. Now they're trying to rebuild it a little bit. A piece of that is Damian George. It's interesting at Alabama. He played some throughout his career. Now he's competing for a starting spot for Florida, And he had some interesting comments yesterday kind of comparing the two programs.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting, saying that the talent level is the same as Alabama. We will see on that. I think Florida is still building, but I mean, if you take a look at some of the younger players that Billy Napier is bringing in,
agreed.
It's on par. It's on par with a lot of players in the country, but a lot of teams in the country. But some of the players you have left from Dan Mullen, that was an issue in terms of recruiting classes and so forth. But a guy like Damian George, I think he's going to be the starter at right tackle. I mean, Keontae Goodwin, who was competing with the job, ended up, leaving for family reasons. He's going back closer to Louisville. So I think he's going to be the guy there. He had a very good spring game. And, he's a big body. He was talking yesterday about, getting in a little bit better condition, but 6'6", 360 pounds, gives you a lot of length at that tackle spot. I think they really like him in terms of, what he brings there, and the fact that you come from a high-level program in Alabama, whereas, you're taught the fundamentals and how to play. I think the offensive line is, coming along. You've got Kingsley Agakin back, a 3-year start, and his 3rd year starting at center. Left guard will be interesting because they brought Micah Mazuka from Baylor, and they thought that he was going to be the guy there, but he got a shoulder injury. And this true freshman, Nigel Harris, who they brought in from IMG Academy, is really impressing coaches with how advanced he is. So I think that's kind of an interesting position battle. You could see a true freshman starting in the offensive line in Nigel Harris.
Last year, that game against Utah in the Swamp was entertaining, phenomenal, everything. Now Florida returns the favor, though, and has to go out there and play. Expectations, do you think, on that first game going out there, having to play on the road?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think the interesting variable is the health of Cam Rising, right? Because
ACL, that's right, yep.
In the Rose Bowl game, and he's practicing on a limited basis. But with ACLs, I think there's always a question of, even if you do play, how much do you trust it? I saw one game where Michael Penix came off an ACL for Indiana against Iowa, and he threw three picks, including 2 pick sixes in his first game back, and was never quite the same that season. So there's a variable there with Utah with regards to that. But by all accounts, it's a difficult place to play. Utah's a physical team. The altitude out there is going to be a factor. It's almost a mile high. It's about 4,000 feet in elevation, which, certainly the humidity was a factor when Utah came down here. So you have that variable as well. And you have a, two-time, defending Pac-12 champion team that knows how to win and that really could have won in the Swamp if not for the late turnover. So I think it's going to be a difficult challenge, difficult test, and a good barometer to see where Florida is. I still think the key game of the season is a Tennessee game in the Swamp. I think that's a huge game because if you lose that game at home, then the season could turn in a completely different direction. I think the Utah game, win or lose, if you're competitive and you know where you're at, you prepare yourself for SEC play. I mean, this is this isn't a team that's going to go undefeated, but they need to show progress during the season under Napier. From 6 wins, you'd like to get it up to like maybe 8 or 9 wins. Would be a really nice second season for him.
We're talking to Kevin Brockway, who covers the Gators for the Gainesville Sun. Defensively, they definitely needed to show progress. They made a change there. He had a couple guys go to the NFL coaching-wise. He brings in Austin Armstrong, who was with Alabama for not even really a month, but he's a young, energetic guy. A lot of positivity coming from his addition. But they have had a couple of injuries, including Mobile native Shamar James, who I know they've been counting on in the linebacker core, certainly, and then corner Devin Moore. Where are they defensively in your mind, Kevin?
Yeah, well, first of all, Shamar, Billy Napier gave an update. They said a week to 10 days, so I don't think that this is an injury that's going to stretch into the beginning of the season. We saw him walking around with a knee brace, but he wasn't hobbled, so I think he's kind of coming along. And I think with the defense, I think there's some optimism based on what you saw in the spring game. It was a low-scoring spring game. It was 10-7. They had 8 sacks. They were touch sacks, but with the way the game was played, it looked like they were a little more creative in getting pressure on the quarterback, which was an area where Florida really struggled. They struggled tremendously on third down last year. They were one of the worst teams in football with 9.7%. And I think, too, giving Corey Raymond the entire secondary, former LSU, DB's coach who did such a great job in developing NFL talent there, I think that's going to be interesting as well. You're going to see maybe a little bit more communication and also a little more aggressiveness with the corners. I think Devin Moore had an interesting line basically saying that we're going to make the defense earn it this year. You saw in Patrick Toney last year a lot of soft coverage, corners off because they were supporting the safeties because, Rashad Torrance and Trey Dean were a little slow. So I think that that's going to be interesting too. Although safety is still an area where they're really concerned. Billy Napier has admitted they did bring in R.J. Moten, a veteran guy from Michigan, another Big Ten transfer that they're hoping will shore things up back there a little bit. But you still have 2 young guys in Kamari Wilson and Miguel Mitchell, who they're really going to be counting on to start there and trying to develop depth in that position as well.
I love the comments from defensive lineman Chris McClellan. Anytime you have a defensive lineman that goes down from 330 to 315, that's impressive. But I love how he got there.
Yeah, and Chris is a guy that I think that they are counting on. Chris was a guy that actually played light last year. He played at 300, and then he bulked to 330, and then he was too heavy. So he's trying to find, I think, that right balance. And I think 315 is a pretty good area for a defensive tackle in the SEC in terms of having the physicality, but also being mobile and agile. You've got Cam Jackson in there that looks like he picked up a little weight. The Memphis transfer, he's at 370, and of course, Big Dez is over 400 pounds. But you're going to have a tackle rotation there where you have a little bit more depth. Caleb Banks, the transfer from Louisville, is also going to be there. Tyreek Sapp. So I think you've got 5 guys that can rotate in 2 spots in that area, and that'll alleviate the snaps. Trevon Dexter, who, by all accounts, probably had an off year last year, was playing way too many snaps. And he was still drafted in the second round by the Chicago Bears, I think, because of his ability and his potential. So he, if you can, create a rotation where you're playing, the right amount of snaps, I think that will help with the production there.
Yeah, and I think too, they lacked some depth defensively last year, Kevin, and I know that was kind of a focus in recruiting in the signing class, but especially in the transfer portal to try to get better, especially along the defensive line.
Yeah, no question. The front 7 as a whole, you lose a guy like Ventrell Miller, who was a great leader, heart and soul. Who, Ventrell Miller, another guy drafted in the 4th round by the Jacksonville Jaguars, but he played half a year with a broken foot, and now you're bringing in a guy, Taraja Mitchell from Ohio State, who is another veteran type, very good communicator, good leader. And we watched in the open practice. He put a pretty good wallop on Montrell Johnson. Looks like he's got some hitting ability too. And he's at 240. He's kind of a bigger linebacker. He's going to be very interesting. And they've got some more depth at inside linebacker too. Even with Shamar James out, you've got this transfer Manny Nunnery from Houston has flashed. He's looked very good. Scooby Williams is much improved. Derek Wingo has been in the program for a while. He's improved. So you've got some options there at the inside linebacker spot too. So I think the front seven or the front six, because you play a 4-2-5 and you've got Jaden Hill and Jadarius Perkins at the star position. I think that you've got a lot more depth there, and hopefully it will for Gator fans it will result in a defense that's more fresh for 4 quarters.
Yeah, no doubt. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, no, and so you look and you got the offense, you got the defense then, and Billy Napier's recruiting. You mentioned that Tennessee game. Where should we think of the Gators falling in line for the SEC East this year?
Difficult schedule.
Yeah, it's a difficult schedule.
It's a tough schedule. I mean, I have no illusions. I think, Georgia and Tennessee are, 1 and 2 for sure. But I think Florida can fall anywhere from 3 to 5, depending on, how much progress they make under Napier with that South Carolina, Kentucky group. I think that they're all in there. It was kind of a weird season last year. Florida lost to Kentucky. They beat South Carolina 38-9. And then you go and you lose to Vanderbilt. So, but I think anywhere in that area from 3 to 5, you could see it with 3 probably being the optimal in the SEC East in the last year of the division. And then, hey, you go to a full 16 team next year, a little free for all without any division standings. I don't know if you guys are going to miss the SEC East or the SEC West or the whole division thing, but it'll be a brand new world next year with Texas and Oklahoma.
It certainly will. Well, great stuff. We're glad you're back covering the Gators, man. You do a great job. Let everybody know how to follow your work.
Yeah, at Kevin Brockway G1 on Twitter and Gatorsports.com and Gainesville.com online. Appreciate all the support, Drew, and good to be back on the show, and have me back anytime.
Yes, sir. We love it. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, guys.
That's good stuff there.
Kevin Brockway, he's a good one, man, and he's a food guy. Went to a great restaurant in Gainesville.
That's part of the resume when we look over for this show.
In his previous, tenure when he was covering the Gators, he was just Florida basketball was so big that he just covered the basketball beat. He did not cover the football because Billy Donovan had just left. And Mike White was there, and I covered a Colin Sexton game over in Gainesville, and it was my first trip to Gainesville, and Brockway was covering him. I was the only Alabama representative there, only beat writer, and he directed me to an outstanding restaurant. So really good guy. Had a chance to say hello to Steve Spurrier.
Can the Gators be the third best team in the East?
I mean, but you couldn't say no, absolutely no. I mean, they're going to have to show a lot of defensive improvement. Mertz is going to have to be a perfect fit. Pearsall is going to have a big year at wide receiver. ATN and those guys in the backfield are going to have to stay healthy. But I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility. I mean, Jeff's going to run off the road because that means they'd probably be beating Kentucky again. But, I mean, since Mark Stoops got there, he's kind of solved that riddle because for a long time Kentucky could not beat Florida. Now they do with some regularity. Right. But we'll see. I mean, I think it's going to come down. I believe I picked Florida 5th. It's going to come down to Kentucky, South Carolina, and Florida, I think, for that third spot. And definitely, I could see the Gators, if everything fell to just right, they could finish third. But we'll see. Who knows? I mean, Brett Norsworthy thinks Tennessee is going to win the division, but most think it's going to be Georgia in a waltz. So, we'll see. Maybe even Kentucky or Florida, if everything fell exactly right and Tennessee had some injuries, maybe Tennessee doesn't finish second because nobody had Tennessee nearly making the playoff last year so you never know.
Think about this.
Kentucky Georgia's the definitive favorite.
Kentucky has beaten Florida 2 straight.
Yeah.
And has beaten them 3 out of the last 5 times.
Yeah, 3 out of the last 5. After I think they lost, I want to say, I can't remember. It was almost an LSU-Alabama type string of ineptitude when LSU did not beat Alabama in Baton Rouge for about 25 years.
2017, going down.
That's one of Stoops' biggest accomplishments.
1987.
Yeah, I mean, it was the 80s, man. So. That's one thing Stoops has done. He regularly beats Florida now, but that's one thing Napier's going to have to turn around.
Let's get a break in. When we come back, more college football conversation.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Got a wreck in Decatur. This one's Beltline and Betty. You got a vehicle smoking there. And we had one in Hartselle at Main and Roan Road. No injury reported in both of those, so they should move pretty quick. Dr. Sandman has the Somnodent, a safe, insurance-approved alternative for snoring and sleep apnea. Dr. Randall Sandlin, 350-CARE. Captain Nick in the Jordan Lane, Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
You've got to experience Toyotathon at Bill Penny Toyota. They've got the selection with over 700 new Toyotas to choose from. And they've got the extras with Bill Penny perks and a 10-year unlimited warranty. So get on over to Bill Penny Toyota today and experience Toyotathon. Bill Penny Toyota in Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
You'll love the expanded wine selection at Liquor Express. From special occasion to everyday table wines, they've got what you need. Meet your friends at the largest tap wall in Alabama with 105 rotating selections. Then take home a growler full of your favorite or choose from our 1,000 canned or bottled beers. Need help stocking your bar or planning your party? Liquor Express has a knowledgeable, professional, in-house staff that can assist you with anything from your bar to the planning of your special event. Visit liquorexpress.net for tasting specials, giveaways, and classes.
I'm attorney Gary Lackey. If you've been injured and need a lawyer right now, do you know who you really get?
I'm attorney Jennifer Lackey. You want to talk to your lawyer. My clients talk to me.
And me. I'm attorney Justin Lackey. We're the ones that you talk to.
And we're the ones who handle your personal injury case.
And we'll take care of it.
The Lackey Law Firm. 1-800-4RIGHTS.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Here in the South, we like our traditions, like Alabama football and tailgating on fall Saturdays. And the best way to start your tailgate? Visit Brooks & Collier to see North Alabama's largest selection of premium grills and smokers. Big Green Egg, Blaze, and Traeger. Everything you need for that perfect tailgate. Check out our rubs and seasonings. We have a full wall to please any taste palate. Visit Brooks & Collier at 813 Meridian Street or at brooksandcollier.com. An Alabama tradition for 75 years. Roll Tide.
Hi, my name is Dan Aldridge. I'm here to let you know about the Aldridge Law Firm and the soon-to-be-announced Legal Town Center. I've been practicing law in Alabama since 1984, and I also practice in Tennessee. And I'm from North Alabama, and I'm here to represent you and take care of your legal needs. For many of us, hiring an attorney is not high on the priority list, and maybe a little scary. But it's something that we all need at some point. So by all means, do your homework. And if you need representation for car accident, wrongful death, medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, or estate planning, or any other matter, just give us a call at 256-534-3188. And you can email me at Dan, that is Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. God bless America.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Sipping on some gin and juice.
The Baltimore Orioles ownership obviously have been, with some cocaine in it from Biden.
It's nearby. 256-576-4977. Yes, that's the latest Twitter craze, is Baltimore suspending their play-by-play guy for saying absolutely nothing.
I mean, good Lord.
And I mean absolutely nothing. 256-576.
I mean, this is Daniel Snyder, Donald Sterling type moron. Just sell the team.
So we talked about the Florida Gators, and one of the burning questions with them is, can Graham Mertz play at a high level? Can he play? Can he take it to another level? He wasn't bad at Wisconsin. It wasn't like he was atrocious at Wisconsin.
No, they were a winning program.
They were a winning program, but can he take it to the next level there in the swamp? That's a question. But another question is, and I'm going to ask you this. Can Dallas Turner be an All-American for Alabama on the defensive line this year.
Well, he's going to be playing Jack linebacker. He's going to be playing Will Anderson's spot. He's played the Sam before, but he's going to switch over to the Jack spot, in my opinion. And he has the ability to be a double-digit sack guy and be a first-round pick. He has a lot of talent. Now, defensively, they've got to be more sound. Malachi Moore spoke about it yesterday. He's a veteran. He's a senior from Hewitt-Trussville. He's going to be playing, I think, both safety and star. And he talked about how they got to cut out penalties. And basically, that's a thing that Kevin Steele has been emphasizing in training camp is they've got, officials at every practice. And if you commit a penalty, you also have to pay the price. And so Alabama has to get better than that. That was a big reason they lost to Tennessee. Now, some of those were phantom penalties that Mo, Larry, and Curley should have been suspended for, just like
right.
And those officials did more erroneous than the Baltimore Orioles announcer did, to be honest with you. But, I mean, again, Alabama committed some stupid penalties, though, in that game that they did deserve. They committed a bunch against Texas, and they've got to cut penalties out if they want to win big games. That's just period, end of story. And so, yeah, I mean, you've got to – the discipline is the biggest key, man, because I thought last year that they didn't have enough team discipline at all. And, Nick Saban talked about performance anxiety. I mean, I thought in the LSU game where they gave up the winning touchdown and two-point conversion on the touchdown, Dallas Turner didn't play the leverage correctly, and he allowed Jaden Daniels to get outside and run for a TD. And this is a situation where Alabama should have been trying to keep Daniels in the pocket and make him make plays with his arm. Now, is he capable of it? Yes, but his strength is as a runner, and they didn't do a very good job defensively, and certainly LSU won the game.
All right, coming up in a little bit, we're going to talk some Ole Miss. And here's another question for you as we get ready for the new year. Lane Kiffin gets a lot of attention at Ole Miss, whether it be Juice the Dog on Twitter, whether it be showing off your girlfriend on National Girlfriend's Day,
getting mustard thrown at you.
Yeah, I mean, Lane Kiffin draws a lot of attention. But the one thing Lane Kiffin has not done on a regular basis, and that is beat Power 5 teams who have won at least 9 regular season games.
Well, he just does unsound things.
Since taking over as head coach, going back to his USC days.
Right.
He is 1-19 against Power 5 teams that have won at least 9 regular season games.
That's crazy.
So, is this the year that Lane Kiffin, he gets a lot of attention as coach, and he's a great offensive mind. But does Lane Kiffin beat an Alabama? Does Lane Kiffin beat an LSU? Does Lane Kiffin surprise a team this year and turn that record around?
I don't think so. I picked them 6th. So I think they're basically a 7-5, maybe 8-4 team. I mean, he's burned the popcorn too many times.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of years ago they were, facing Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and he said, "Get your popcorn ready," and throws his headset. We all know what happened. They got annihilated. So, and going for it from your own 11. He just does unsound things. I think he's a good football coach, not a great one. And I don't think I think his teams are always going to be like this. Are they capable on a given day of beating someone? Of course. But I don't think they're ever going to be consistent enough to win the SEC. He's making $9 million at Ole Miss. That just goes to show you
he's going to have to win some of these games.
Well, eventually. I mean, if he wins 8 or 9, Ole Miss isn't firing him. I mean,
right.
Come on, man. They know where they're at. This is, they understand. They've never been to Atlanta to play for the SEC championship, and it's going to be without divisions. It's going to be even more difficult now.
Well, and without
after
divisions,
this year.
But once you get to 12 teams, you're not going to have to get to Atlanta to get to the playoffs, though, either.
No, I mean, they can still make the playoff,
yes.
but they can get in there, but we'll see. But I just think overall, I've never been sold on Lane as a solid, elite head coach. Can he do a good job? Can he turn your program around? Can he win? Yeah, but I'm talking about being elite. So I don't. But of course, and I think there's a ceiling at Ole Miss too. I think Ole Miss is certainly investing in their program. But again, I just don't know that they're ever going to get to Atlanta. But like you said, in the 12-team playoff, may not have to. There could be a year where everything lines up. If you can win 10 games in the regular season, a couple of years ago, they did get to the Sugar Bowl, but Matt Corral got injured and they ended up losing that game. But still, they had one heck of a run. So yeah, is it possible to get to a 12-team playoff? It is, if we have one, because now we don't even know, because we don't even know who the hell the conferences are going to be.
Yeah, all thrown out into the wind. I tell you what, let's get a break in, because when we come back, we'll delve a little bit more into the Ole Miss Rebels. Jared Redding will join us, and hey, how good can Jackson Dart be? Is it all on him for Lane Kiffin to turn that record around? We'll explain.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Temperatures only drop into the upper 60s and lower 70s as we head into the overnight, early into your Wednesday morning. A mostly cloudy sky Wednesday afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the mid and upper 80s. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. Some of those thunderstorms could be on the stronger end of the spectrum. We drop into the lower 70s through the overnight, early Thursday morning. Probably going to be dry for the Thursday morning commute. A partly sunny sky Thursday afternoon. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. Temperatures climbing a little bit. Highs into the upper 80s and lower 90s. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Our fog situation is improving. We've cleared most everything accident-wise. Had two minor ones, one in Hartselle at Main and Roan Road, the other one in Decatur, Beltline, and Betty. Both of those should be out of the way pretty quick. Snelling specializes in accounting, admin, and customer support positions. Whether you need temporary employees for special projects or someone to join your team, Snelling can help. Snelling, how the area's best companies hire talent. Captain Eck in the North Parkway, Popeye Skywatch Traffic Center.
Specializing in simple and affordable rentals, McCurry Van and Car Rental can make sure you have just the right vehicle for your next family vacation, weekend getaway, or if you just need transportation while your vehicle is being repaired. McCurry carries Ford Transit vans and Mercedes Sprinter vans, trucks and work vans, and more. And they offer discounted rental rates for long-term rentals. Now with 4 locations: Athens, Muscle Shoals, Coleman, and Huntsville. Log on McCurryRentals.com to make your reservation now. That's McCurryRentals.com.
Tom Abraham here from my friend Brian Hamaker and his team at North Alabama Mortgage. Look, buying a home is the biggest purchase you will make in your life, and it can be a bit intimidating, so you want people that can help walk you through the mortgage process and get you the best deal possible. That's what North Alabama Mortgage does, and they do it in Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida, from first-time purchases to refis, conventional, VA, FHA, and USDA loans. They have the solution at North Alabama Mortgage. Visit NorthAlabamaMortgage.com to learn more. That's NorthAlabamaMortgage.com.
Hi, my name is Dan Aldridge. I'm here to let you know about the Aldridge Law Firm and the soon-to-be-announced Legal Town Center. I've been practicing law in Alabama since 1984, and I also practice in Tennessee. And I'm from North Alabama, and I'm here to represent you and take care of your legal needs. For many of us, hiring an attorney is not high on the priority list, and maybe a little scary. But it's something that we all need at some point. So by all means, do your homework. And if you need representation for car accident, wrongful death, medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, or estate planning, or any other matter, just give us a call at 256-534-3188. And you can email me at Dan, that is Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. God bless America.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
These days, saving time is important, and saving money is even more so. That's where Eagle Masonry and Insulation comes in. Over the years, Eagle has expanded their services to meet the needs of folks like you in our area. If you're ready to lower your utility bills, Eagle can insulate your home and help you save money with fiberglass, spray foam, and cellulose insulation, and can help you decide what's best for your project. Call Eagle Masonry and Insulation today at 256-755-1556. Eagle saves you time, and Eagle saves you money.
Do you want your next party to be something you'll remember? Then head on down to Flosa Premier to book your next big bash. Birthday? Corporate meeting? Maybe just a family reunion so you can get your cousin Kyle back into the basketball court so you can beat him at basketball. I don't have no idea. Flow is fun for all ages looking for high-flying excitement, arcade fun, and tasty snacks to satisfy your hunger. Whether you have 10 friends or 25, Flow is jam-packed with something fun for everyone. Get jumping with Flow off South Parkway in Drake or head over to flowhuntsville.com to book your next party now.
There's the phone and no one to answer.
256-576-4977.
And as a result, we got many, many phone calls and letters.
Give us a call on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline today. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Hi, welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. We ended the conversation going into break about the Ole Miss Rebels. Lane Kiffin. What is he going to do this year? The schedule for Ole Miss, by the way, if they are to get 9 wins, 10 wins, they will earn it this year because Ole Miss perhaps has the hardest schedule, according to ESPN FPI. They back it up. They have the hardest schedule in the league this year.
They do. They have a very difficult schedule. It's very interesting what they've done with the roster and the quarterback competition, even though it seems as though Jackson Dart is the definitive favorite. They may have the best player in the league in Quinshon Judkins, who they stole out of the state of Alabama, and that's all Lane Kiffin and his dogged recruiting. I mean, they identified the young man. They found him, and they did a great job of recruiting him and getting him into the fold. And we're going to talk some Ole Miss training camp with a new guest. He works with our good friend David Johnson, who does a great job with Rebels 247, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He's just been on the beat really since early July, right before SEC Media Days in Nashville. It's Jared Redding, and he is with us on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. We really appreciate his time. Jared, you're in Huntsville with Drew and Scott. Good morning.
Morning, y'all.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you joining us. Your quick takeaways from Ole Miss camp so far. David told us this back in the spring. Is Jackson Dart, is this his job still? Is it a thing with a quick hook in your mind if the season starts and he's not playing well, or is he definitively the guy?
Yeah, I think that answer kind of depends on who you ask. If you ask Jackson Dart, where do you kind of see this? We asked Jackson point blank in the spring, and he has that confidence, and he says that it's his job, until it's not. And that's the kind of confidence that you want to have from your quarterback, especially a guy who started 12 out of 13 games last year for Ole Miss and won a quarterback battle. Haven't already gone through one quarterback battle, winning that one about 4 games into the season. But, he is, once again, not alone. And it's a much, much more crowded quarterback room. And it's a really cool quarterback room, too, because you have one guy who's 23 years old and has played a lot of college football, and Spencer Sanders, done a lot of good things at Big 12 Oklahoma State. And you also have a guy in the quarterback room who's just 16, 17 years old, who should be a junior in high school right now, in Austin Simmons. Not to mention a young guy, Walker Howard, who, if you remember, was one of the top quarterbacks in the 2022 cycle. So, it's a potent mix, definitely, for sure. But, Dart has – you talk to Kiffin, you talk to players, you watch him go about his craft. He looks like a much different quarterback, and much different and much more improved quarterback from where they left off from the Texas Bowl and where we stand now in fall camp. So I think, I think it's still a battle. I do think still that Jackson Dart has the upper hand as of right now. But once again, things could change. We'll have to see what happens.
There's plenty of new faces for Lane Kiffin as far as transfer portal players go, but there's also plenty of faces in the coaching staff as well. Along that offensive line, they lose Jake Thornton, who goes to Auburn to be the offensive line coach. Now they have John Garrison, who came from NC State, to be the offensive line. How is that offensive line progressing?
Yeah, it's one of those where your starting center last year, and expected to be your starting center this year, has been out for fall camp. He's been in that green/black non-contact jersey. He went through some drills yesterday, was kind of shut down 4 periods in, and we presume it's a little bit more of a leg issue. Kiffin, if you know Kiffin, he is not going to disclose anything, nor will he let anyone else on the staff disclose anything about injuries. But Reese McIntyre's taking first-team reps in his stead, and he actually looks pretty impressive doing so. But I expect Caleb Morton to be back pretty soon, and it looks like he is getting a little bit better. But, the only position that from last year that you look at who's going to be the next guy, you place a guy like Nick Broker, who was drafted to the Tennessee Titans. There's a guy like Eli Acker, who was part of a 2020 recruiting class, that looking back on it has done wonders for this program, especially underneath Lane Kiffin. So, and he's taken that initiative well at that guard position. And of course, you have your tackles returning and Jaden Williams and Micah Pettis. But John Garrison's a guy that Lane Kiffin eyed when he first got the job. Granted, it didn't work out, and situations changed, but he's got the guy that he wanted from the very beginning. And you have to look at all the good offensive linemen John Garrison has produced. A top 10 pick in recent drafts, I believe. I think it was 2 drafts ago. They had someone picked in the top 10. But he's really good in player development, and he's also good at on kind of the relational side of things and trying to make things work with a new group.
Yeah, we're talking to Jared Redding, inside the Rebels, part of 24/7 Sports covering Ole Miss. You mentioned Pettis. He's from our neck of the woods. We saw him play at Sparkman and then finish his career at James Clemens. Really been on a nice career arc. What are the expectations for him going into the season?
Sorry, what name did you say again?
Pettis, tackle, because he's from our neck of the woods. We saw him play. He spent the majority of his career at Sparkman, but finished it playing for Wade Waldrop at James Clemens High School.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly got the size. I mean, you walk past him in the hallway, he's pretty hard to miss.
Right.
He's got the prototypical tackle body. He was a guy who, last year was kind of thrust into that role, although he wasn't expected to start at the beginning of the season and ended up doing so and ended up starting the majority of games. Now, penalties were an issue last year, and sometimes when he went up against really elite edge rushers, especially when you face the big dogs in the SEC, it's one of those that's kind of trial and error. But you can tell that that he's willing to learn. And I think when you have a guy like John Garrison thrown in the mix who, excels at, getting them to kind of go on the same page and all that, I think it's going to work wonders for him.
Yeah. Quinshon Judkins burst on to the SEC scene last year, and yesterday Lane Kiffin talking about his star running back saying that, hey, we haven't even touched the iceberg, haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg and what we can do with him. How much more will they get him involved in with the offense this year?
That's a good. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That was the exact question that I asked Lane Kiffin yesterday. When we talked to Lane in media days, he talked about the individual stuff that Quinshon needs to do to take that next step. When we talked to Quinshon, he says he wants to be an all-around running back. Now, granted, Lane Kiffin has coached an all-around running back by the name of Reggie Bush. You may or may not have heard of him from US.
He was pretty good.
But this is what Lane Kiffin is really good at. He is good at putting these players in the best position to be successful. But at the same time, he said when you take that next step, sometimes it can be about your personal development, but sometimes it's, kind of expanding the arsenal of what you can do. And that's exactly what he was talking about when referring to Quinshon Judkins. You could see the route running for Quinshon Judkins. He's very good at, going across the middle of the field and making cuts on some linebackers in the middle of the field to get some 4 or 5 yard gains. But he's also shown that, he can be using the wheel route really effectively too, and he can move for somebody his size. If you look at Quinshon Judkins, you think of him as kind of that bell cow running back, and he is. I mean, there's a reason why he rushed for 1,500 yards a season ago. But, he's he definitely looks like a do-it-all running back. I mean, yesterday he cooked one of Ole Miss's starting safeties from a year ago and was able to, make big plays happen there too. So I would expect him, especially with the running back room kind of being beefed up a little bit, especially more recently with the recent addition of Oregon State transfer Jan Griffin, who is expected to be immediately eligible at some point. We don't know when that's going to be yet. And you throw in the fact that you have a Ulysses Bentley and you Kedrick Riscano, who is another 4-star recruit out of this most recent class. And, stars don't exactly matter as much, although as evidenced by Quinshon Judkins, who was slept on by a lot of other schools. So, I think Jackson's is going to have a lot more than 15 catches and 132 yards next year.
Well, and Jared, what about the other side of the ball defensively? Pete Golding coming over from Alabama. I know Lane wanted to improve that side of the ball. What sort of progress have you guys seen from spring to fall, and what are the expectations defensively for the Rebels this year?
Well, I think on the latter half of that question, it's the thing that is the kind of the recurring theme that Lane Kiffin has brought up, throughout this offseason and fall camp is, when you have, 40, 45 new scholarship players and so many of them are transfers. He brought in 28 players coming in, now 29 with the addition of Jam Griffin, that, because there's so many new spaces, it's like, how are you going to get them to, coexist and perform alongside, returning players and the freshman players. And so he talked about that being a challenge, much like he did going into last year, because last year he went all in on the portal and did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's the same with the defense, because the majority of the transfer players they did bring in were on the defensive side of the ball. And Kiffin referred to it as having a lot of good pieces on that side of the ball, but there's some worry because they've never played with – a lot of those guys have never played with each other before. And how is that going to work out? And I think when you look at what Pete Golding did at Alabama, he's a heck of a recruiter. He's taking the best recruits from Mississippi to bring to Alabama, like a Brandon Turnage, like Byron Young, like a Jaheim Otis. He's been able to do that, and he's working runners the recruiting trail at Ole Miss. But, it's one of the things that what Pete Golding is capable of as a defensive coordinator, but you're unsure or you doubt, that he'll have near the amount of depth that he had at Alabama. Because at Alabama, you could sub in a 5-star linebacker and sub him in with another 5-star or perhaps a highly rated 4-star player at that same position. And he had that luxury at Alabama. He doesn't have that luxury so far here at Ole Miss. And when you combine that with adjusting a new scheme, there's so many question marks around it. But he will build a great defense eventually. And this year, he has a good starting 11 of guys, and with a lot of good guys returning on the defensive line, J.J. Piggies, Jared Ivey, linebacker, with transfer additions, Troy Brown, Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste, alongside Asante Sistrunk. And, in the secondary, DeAndre Prince being supplemented by even more players that are new to the program. It's going to be interesting to watch, and it's one thing that we haven't really got a conclusive answer completely yet as of fall camp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no doubt that's going to be some of the questions to be answered. What's another thought or two as far as questions that need to be answered in your mind in the coming days before this difficult schedule gets underway for the Rebels?
I think going back to what we were talking about in the receiving game, Ole Miss rarely misses on a game-changing receiver, as evidenced, ever since they recruited Laquan Treadwell under Hugh Freeze. He's always had that one guy on the roster who's just been kind of the guy who defensive coordinators around the SEC really circle. And who's going to be that guy at Ole Miss? Now, granted, they could possibly have multiple ones on the roster. I mean, Zachary Franklin and Trey Harris, two guys they picked up from the portal recently, getting named to the Blitnikoff watch list. We haven't seen Zachary Franklin in action so far this fall camp. He's been in that free non-contact jersey. He's been in the training room for the full time for the first day of fall camp and even a lot of day two. But he and Trey Harris were both all conference receivers, and they were in a lot of hype surrounding them, even though Ole Miss had a chance to get other great targets out of the portal as well. But Trey Harris, you look at him, he's a big body receiver. He looks. You look at him and you're like, yeah, okay, that's that next guy that you want to look at. And no receiver on here has struggled so far. Dayton Wade was a guy who never really got enough credit last year on special teams or in the receiving game. He was Ole Miss's best receiver at the end of the year. You wonder if Jalen Knox, the transfer from Missouri 2 seasons ago, if this year is going to finally be able to really break out, is what the expectations were. But they have some weapons at tight end now. You have Caden Prescorn is a little bit more of a veteran and proven tight end, NFL prospect eventually soon. Michael Trigg was a guy who was seen as a major disappointment last year. And granted, injuries didn't help matters on that front, but he kind of struggled really, adapting and kind of, with the little things tied in. And has he shown some good things since? Yes. But at the same time, he's in a crowded room now, and how's he going to handle that? and that's one thing that we're going to have to keep an eye on. But I think what the pecking order of receiver is going to be. But granted, there may not be an answer to that because there might be multiple guys to make it happen. So that's one thing that you could keep an eye on, especially that, and obviously the depth stuff on defense.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a great stuff, man. We appreciate you coming on for the first time. We hope to reconnect as the season gets underway for the Rebels. But let everybody know how to follow your work and what you guys are doing on 24/7 Sports with Inside the Rebels.
Yeah, you can go to InsideTheRebels.com. That will lead you straight to our 24/7 team site, or you can go to 247sports.com/college/Ole Miss to find that team site as well. All sorts of content, recruiting, team coverage, other intel from myself, David Johnson, and our recent hire, Tyler Comas. You can follow me on Twitter, on social media on Twitter, at Jared E. Redding, where you can find some of my stuff there as well, and also my other unfiltered opinions there. And so, yeah, I encourage you to follow along there.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks.
All right. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
All right, let's get that final break in. Tomorrow's headlines when we return.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
We haven't picked up anything new accident-wise. Our fog seems to be improving, so looks like we're going to wrap it up in good shape. Do have a few folks in last-minute dash mode this morning, so be careful and watch out for them. Popeye Shrimp Tackle Box has 8 crispy Louisiana seasoned butterfly shrimp, a signature side, and a buttermilk biscuit, only $6. Popeye's University in Jordan, 72 in Jeff and North Parkway. Captain Nick in the Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
Do you have discomfort in your legs? Varicose veins can affect not only how your legs look, but how they feel. Symptoms of varicose veins include pain, swelling, aching, heaviness, and fatigue. Dr. Tracy Lowry of Best Vein Care of Huntsville can diagnose and treat your varicose veins with the latest minimally invasive techniques. Diagnosis and treatment is covered by most insurances. Call 256-715-7151 to schedule your free screening. Go to bestveincarehuntsville.com.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time, or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Our motto at Fleming Roofing is we show up. Our goal at Fleming Roofing is to provide the reliable customer service that you deserve, and we have the resources to meet all of your roofing needs: residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. We are manufacturer certified for roof coatings, single-ply membranes, and asphalt shingles. Whenever you need a roofing professional you can count on, call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We are committed to finding the solution that meets your needs. We don't have quotas or heavy-handed sales tactics. Fleming Roofing, we have expert experience. We show up. Free estimates, residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. Check us out at FlemingHSV.com. FlemingHSV.com. When you need a quick response, it's Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
The kitchen is the heart of any home. It's where the family gathers. It's where kids discover old recipes and make them their own. Just starting out, or just now getting started on the dream kitchen you've always wanted?
I'm Chris Haygood, and from all of us here at Bob Wallace Appliance to the home builders and the homeowners of the Huntsville area, a heartfelt thank you for buying local. We're in Huntsville, Florence, and Coleman, and online at bobwallaceappliance.com.
It's time for tomorrow's headlines today with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Time does keep on slipping into the future, and the Atlanta Braves need to figure it out.
3 in a row they've lost. Pitching has been abysmal.
What's going on there? Got to get it. I mean,
it's just baseball. Last 3 games, the starting pitching has not been good enough. So, period in the story. They've swung the bats good enough.
Yeah.
They just got to get their heads out of their rectums and on the mound, and they got to start pitching the baseball.
If it's only that simple. Let's go out to the phone lines. Jeremy's with us this morning. Good morning, Jeremy.
I'm good, guys. Hey, look, I think I'm hearing all these coaches talk about other sports in the NCAA and talking about the baseball and the volleyball and all this stuff. the answer to solving this problem is simple for these other sports. Let's regionalize the other sports. Why do they have to do what why do they have to play the teams the football team play? Why do they have to play the teams the basketball team play? Why don't we regionalize those sports, save them money on travel, let them play in the southeast if they're in the southeast, and the northwest if they're in the northwest, or northeast if they're in the northeast. They don't have to travel as far as the football team does if they've got teams on the east and west coast. That shouldn't happen to happen.
I think Dan Wetzel of Yahoo.com said something about just having football-only conferences and then doing it differently in all the other sports. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
No, it is because
how much more money? Notre Dame's already doing it. I mean, they're independent in football, but they're not in anything else. They play in the ACC.
Yes, that is the thing. Notre Dame is the outlier to all of this. I mean, they
are.
They've kind of.
But I do want to ask a question.
What?
What's the last championship Notre Dame won in anything?
I know.
In anything, not just football. Well, I guess Muffet McGraw won 2 in basketball and women's basketball.
Hockey's pretty good.
Yeah, the hockey's pretty good. But Notre Dame has set the example. The fact that you can play be independent in football, play a 4-game ACC schedule, whatever they want to call it, but be a full member of the ACC in every other sport.
I mean, Stanford may have to be an independent considering they've got 36,000 sports. Underwater basket weaving, I mean, whatever.
No, you're right.
I mean,
But Jeremy has a good idea, though. I think it is good because there's nothing worse. UCLA having to travel to Maryland to play a 3-game baseball series and then have to get back on a plane possibly and host another one. I mean, it's what we're asking and not what we are asking, what they are asking some of these schools to do as far as softball, baseball, track and field, volleyball to do is
the non-revenues.
It's
definitely
almost
difficult.
Impossible because volleyball sometimes you can play on a Monday and turn around and play again on a Saturday or a Wednesday, Saturday. You can't travel to Rutgers and then come back and play on it can't be done at that level. They've got to figure something out. That is the casualty of all of this.
It's going to be interesting to see some of the fallout. Good phone call by Jeremy, and then just to reiterate for the last time as we're going off the air, more on to the day, ownership of the Baltimore Orioles.
I didn't even have to play that.
Sell the team.
I played it to you during the commercial break.
Just sell the friggin' ball club. It's an embarrassment to Brooks Robinson.
Some people don't even know who that is.
Here's Bobby White from Woody Anderson Ford on their service department.